The previous speaker that I'm not necessarily Superman, but it does help.
Mr. Chair.
I call Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It is true that I was sitting in my office wading through various piles of paper, which is a great thing to be doing during the urgency period, and I saw the limitation bill and I thought, I have to be in this House. I need to be in this House to debate the limitation bill because, as my colleague Lynn Pillay says, it's unusual for us on the Labor side of the House to see a bill and say, this is practical, this is common sense. Probably was a bill from the last Labor government inherited by National. But no, in this case we have to give credit where credit is due and say that this is a bill that's come through with the Minister in charge, leading the way, making ground, breaking new ground in this House. That's what the Minister's doing with the limitation bill. So I'm pleased to take a call on the committee stage. But really what I want to do is draw further attention to David Parker's SOP, because I think it's important that in a common sense bill like this, we look for consistency. We look for the ability to say, if we're going to do something like the long stop period, and it's important and it's useful, we should try and apply it consistently. And the problem with this bill, as I understand it, as I sat up in my office listening intently to the speeches particularly by David Parker and Lynn Pillay and Jacinda Ardern, was that when it came to the Building Act, when it came to the very people that the National Party have come to this House and say that they're here to represent, perhaps those who are leaky building owners, why shouldn't they get the ability to have a 15-year long stop period in the case of the Building Act? And that's precisely what David Parker's SOP is designed to do, is actually to extend out the period from 10 years to 15 years. And I think we all know, all of us, particularly those of us in metropolitan areas, have dealt with people who have had leaky buildings and leaky homes. And there's no overestimating the seriousness of that for those people. And the effects and the impacts of leaky buildings do take a period of time to become obvious. And we have noticed, certainly in my electorate here, that there actually hasn't been an end to the claims. There's actually been more and more people becoming interested in this, building products that we used in the 90s becoming less and less durable, and people concerning themselves about this. So the limitation bill has the opportunity to help address some of those issues. And I think it's important just to look at what the committee itself said in its report back to the House about this, because they did say that there were divergent views about the question of the long stop period. And I think in a bill as important as the limitation bill, perhaps for some people a technical bill, but for many people a very, very practical provision here for them if they do have an issue with the Building Act. And the Law Commission, in 3 separate reports on the issue of what the long stop period should be, the reports in 1988, 2000 and 2007, changed their mind about whether they thought the long stop period should be 10 or 15 years. And the 2007 Commission concluded that a 15-year long stop period struck the appropriate balance between justice for claimants and certainty for defendants. And that is a difficult balance to strike, to be able to ensure that people can have their say, can have some kind of redress for what has occurred to them, but to not extend that out forever and ever and a day and make people feel that they're going to have a liability for their whole lifetime. So David Parker has put forward this SOP, Mr. Chair, and I think it's well worth reading out. So it would insert a new clause, clause 60 after clause 59. That's a good thing. Make sure it's sequential. That's important. So clause 60 will read, notwithstanding any other provision in this Act or the Building Act, the long stop period under the Building Act 2004 is hereby amended to 15 years so as to align with the general long stop period provided under this Act. And that's it, in essence, in a nutshell, to make sure that we actually get some consistency and some ability for those people who have been affected by issues relating to the Building Act to know that they've got that period of 15 years. So I really do call on the National Party to perhaps take a call and explain to us why they don't believe there should be this kind of consistency, because the Minister is a person I know who takes his responsibilities seriously, and an issue such as the limitation bill is one that he will have pored over for hours and hours in his office, going through each clause word by word to make sure it's precise and accurate. And obviously we're trying. Well, that's right, and we're trying to make sure that this bill is improved to the extent that it can be. Sorry, what was that, Clark Kent? I didn't quite hear. Oh, she did, that's right. And I think credit where credit's due to to the whole of the Justice and Electoral Committee. I've had the privilege of briefly sitting on the Justice and Electoral Committee from time to time, and great admirer of the Chair, Chester Borrows. He does an excellent job in that committee. Well, we are, and I think it bears saying again and again that this has been a good process, and here we have a bill that does do a lot of common sense things. Mr. Chair, does a lot of common sense things. Well, I have. Does a lot of common sense things, and here's an opportunity for one more common sense approach that the Minister could take. And it would be good if he could get up and take a call and explain to us here in the House whether or not the National Party will be supporting this SOP. Here it is, the opportunity to get a 15-year limit across the board. The Law Commission was wavering itself. Here's a chance for Parliament to give a clear direction. That's our job here, is to be able to give people a clear direction, not set up inconsistency within law, but make sure that the people who want to make claims around the Building Act know that the long stop period applies to all of them. So, Mr. Chair, I'm not going to delay the House much further on this bill. I see that a number of the clauses in it deal with bills which are laws where people do need to be making claims over a period of time, and we've obviously had some discussion already in here about things like gradual process and the role of the ACC within that. So I'm sure that my colleagues on the Justice and Electoral Committee will have made sure that all of those provisions are useful and accurate and helpful for the people who will be seeking redress under ACC. But the long stop period is an important part of this bill, and one where the Labor Party has seen fit to put forward an SOP. My colleague David Parker, a lawyer in his own right and somebody who takes these matters very seriously, has put this up here, and I really do call on the National Party to make sure that they give serious consideration to an SOP. Sometimes SOPs come into this House, and I know that they're seen by the government as ones which perhaps are just time fillers, or they're ones that we're not serious about. But in this case, that is not one of those. This is one where we are deadly serious about the fact that we think this will be good for New Zealand, good for the people who use the Building Act, and it's timely really that at this time in an urgency motion where the government said this is an important thing for us, the limitation bill, this is one of the things we urgently want to pass, and we say good on you for wanting to urgently pass a common sense piece of law, but how about looking at the SOP in the name of David Parker to insert a new clause 60, and I look forward to a contribution perhaps from the Minister on whether or not he will accept this SOP.
Members.